Good afternoon, everyone. The Ranter is back to go into yet another rambling diatribe of the news of the day. And I haven't done this a bit because due to various issues, one being of YouTube apparently thinking that I was cyberbullying and harassing a special class of people who all they did wrong was break into the Capitol, commit violence and vandalism and theft in congressional offices, assaulted police officers, including crushing one into a door, and threatening the deaths of congressmen, congresswomen, and the vice president. So, since I was apparently on a rather honest view of my emotions concerning that the day after January 6th, that I was somehow being a bully and harasser to these people, I'm going to try to be a lot less nice and not less of and not more nice and a lot less of a meanie head. I'll try. And and I did in that video, which is no longer available, put a dividing line between Trump protesters who were outside the barricade, who had every right to be there, and every right to protest, and the people who broke in. Because they're no longer protesters when they broke the line, when they went past the barricades, when they committed the various forms of crime that they did, including physically breaking into the Capitol building. They are no longer protesters. They are rioters. Everyone will jump on the idea that in a Black Lives Matter protest, if someone is rioting, then they lambaste the entire group. Like every one of them that is doing it, that is in league with it, that are instigating it. And no, that's not. In fact, in a lot of those cases, as we saw one with an actual police officer in one of the first Black Lives Matter dress up so he can break some windows into I don't know, an auto parts store. I forget a few of the details, but he was being chased by protesters going, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And he had to wander away. But it turns out he was a cop from like St. Paul and was just trying to make things worse for that. See, since there's actual evidence of that, we know that happened, as opposed to thousands of people that got revved up by all the people for the past few weeks talking about this is a 1776 moment and this is a revolution, and Trump going and telling people to go out there. I'll go with you. We'll go walk to the Capitol, as he waddles to his car and goes to the White House. Anyway, I will try to be nicer and be less of a meanie head. That aside, I had a bunch of topics that I wanted to get into concerning, the investigations that the Department of Justice is doing on Trump, the January 6th committee, the last one where they actually are subpoenaing Trump, which I don't know if that's going to matter or not, and various other topics, including the continuing on to the migrant transporting that DeSantis was doing. But I don't know. Since the given issue that I had, I don't feel much like getting into full-fledged topics. So I just want to kind of vent, if y'all don't mind. Half dozen of you that watch this, and discuss the apathy and complacency of our politics. We're heading into midterms, and the basic wisdom in terms of American politics is if the president gets into office and his party also succeeds and either holds onto their seats or adds seats, so therefore you have like a supermajority somewhat, that the wisdom is that the opposing party will pick up the seats or reclaim some power back by midterms, if things don't magically improve, in 2 years, right? So Republicans are in line to take back the House and or Senate in this midterms. This is not a magical event. This is not a how could this happen? This is like no act of infamy. There's nothing cheeky about this, right? This is just how our politics works, the ebb and flow, which I mentioned before. What is different on this is the Republicans are in line to win while promising various things that really has nothing to do with helping the country. They want to blame Biden for inflation, and blame Biden for the gas prices, blame the Democrats for this, they blame the Democrats for that, which is in line with politics, both ways, does that shit. But Republicans then would ask, oh, well, what are you going to do when you take over? Oh, we're going to investigate. We're going to investigate. We're going to get vengeance on them going after Trump, these evil Democrats. Wahaha. And then it goes, okay, then what do you do about inflation? Oh, inflation, we're going to investigate. We're going to investigate Biden. We're going to investigate Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and Dr. Fauci and Christopher Wray and the Easter Bunny. Oh, yes, the Easter Bunny, too. Okay. See, that's the problem. That's the part that gets me, is that stuff, investigate, fine, I don't care about that stuff. But you're running on that as opposed to improving the country. And the problem with that is that if they're in line to win, that means there are voters out there who are going to vote for them with this thinking in mind. And they're going to do it. You try to give people, at least in general terms, we'll try to give people credit, idealistically, that, yeah, there's the firebugs out there, and people who get their sound bites and they talk the far right or far left things, and it's all fiery, it's all emotional, it's all this and it's all that. But when you get down to the brass tacks, when you get down to the kitchen table, it's about, what are you going to do to help me and my family, or help the American people and their families. When it is talking about, we have a 10-point plan to deal with inflation. We have a 10-point plan to deal with gas prices. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Show actual policy to the voters to see if the voters are going, oh yeah, that's a good idea, or go, it's not too much of a good idea, but there's some good parts into it, and I can understand the concept of compromise. To just having this where it's like, oh, well, that's going to fix itself. We're just going to investigate. We need to be beholden to Master Trump. So we're just going to investigate everyone, including institutions that decide not to fund our political party. We're going to investigate them. We're going to get them. Vengeance. So that is what you're going to vote for in order to allow Republicans to return to control of the House and or Senate. Now, the flip side of the coin, because the question is, why would you want to do that? I mean, as far as how I think of it, presidential elections in those years, when you elect a president and or members of the House of the Congress, those years are for, national politics, right? And the midterms is for the kitchen table, because it is representative of congressmen and senators who are supposed to be representing you kind of farther closer to you, you know what I mean? Where it is talking about, inflation, gas prices, the price of food, price of medication, etc., etc., etc. But what would motivate a voter to vote for the Republican Party if they're not talking about main policies, if they're just talking about investigations and wasting people's time and this and that, all for the sake and the glory of Donald Trump? Why would they go and do that? Well, one would be the voters are so adherent that way that they're conspiratorial and they just buy all the stuff that they say on the sound bites like kibble, right? But, and my hope is, the majority of the people who's going to vote for this is actually still wanting the policies and are hoping that after all the noise that they're actually going to get down to work. But the reason why they're voting for this stuff is that they feel like the Democrats and or Biden is going too far afield with what they consider as progressive. You know, trans rights, working to codify Roe v. Wade after it went down, continuing to throw money in Ukraine to help them fight their defensive war against their invading Russia, even though they're all Nazis. Anyway. And anything that you know, during this time frame of politics, you know, mid-election season or just election season, this is where the caravans come out and the demonizing and this and that. And so people would say, oh, well, you know, I don't like what they're doing over here. You know, I don't give a shit about Trump. I don't give a shit about, you know, all these investigations. I want us to get down and be, you know, fiscally conservative with our finances and get us out of inflation and all that kind of stuff. But this stuff right here, oh, ew, nasty. Why are they even supporting this? I don't understand. So I'm gonna have to force myself to swallow the bitter pill and vote for these pieces of crap, because those pieces of shit over there, that's going beyond what I think and whatever. Ooh. Something like that. Because as intelligent human beings, we do have the concept of weighing the pros and cons of what we are voting for, who we're voting for, what side we want to be on, and what hits we will take in order to achieve victory. And that's the thing. It is about achieving victory, isn't it? Is it really about policies? Really? Is it really about helping people? Really? Is it really about, you know, ending issues that has been plaguing us for years, that only gets to be brought up during midterm season or a national election season, but when it is during these middle years, no one talks about it, no one does anything about it. Shh. It's the political footballs we only play in mid-season or national season. And then once those votes are done, then we put the shoulder pads away, the helmet away, put the political footballs away. I mean, we can go down the line of a lot of things that are considered, or I would consider to be nothing more than political footballs. One egregious one is when they complain about you know, helping out migrants, because why are we helping out migrants when there's homelessness happening, or homeless vets? And that pisses me off, because, oh yeah, well, since Vietnam, there have been plenty of people who served that war faithfully as soldiers for the United States who've been out on the street, and none of y'all wanted to do anything about it other than play lip service to it. Other than that, you don't want to do a thing about it. Besides homeless vets or just regular homeless folk. I mean, what's the some states or some communities would want to do like these funded drives to actually drive out the homeless, not really do anything to them, but drive them off our streets, because then we'll make our streets look better with them not there, as opposed to actually helping them. But we only discuss them when it's political time and we want to shame the other side. See, that stuff pisses me off. And that has happened. We can, you know, look then that Goebbels gerbil, Stephen Miller did this like video about Philadelphia where there was like, you know, you're walking down this sidewalk and they're homeless, you know, sleeping, or have their little bivouac tents, or what they have left of personal possessions and so forth, and like boxes and so forth, and refuse. And there's like the tweet about it is that Oh, this is like a third world nation. Oh no, it's only Philadelphia. Well, you all had years to do something about it. You were part of a presidential administration, weren't you? Donald Trump, 4 years. If this was such a concern for you, where were you those 4 years doing it? You didn't give a shit. So don't pretend you give a shit now. And when they go, oh, well, are you any better? Did you do anything? Yes, I have. I've actually fed homeless. I've actually gone out to parks, especially in DC, and there'd be homeless that would have been on the mall. This was years and years ago. And actually gave them lunch. You know, the homeless person was there. I had some food, because I was a kid then. But a kid, a child, seeing this, had his own meal that he went on this field trip with, gave it to somebody else that he thought needed it more. Now, that's coming from a child at the time whose, natural inclination is to be, give me that, it's mine. Gave to them. What do you do? Alright? About giving money and giving charity or handing them what you have in your pockets, all that is well and good. That doesn't make you, that doesn't gauge whether you're a good or a bad person. I mean, it just gauges that you have a conscience, which is cool. It's always going to be cool. But if you don't take the actual steps when you have the amount of power as either someone who works for a presidential administration or works to have the ear of a congressman or a senator, and try to put forth an idea to help people in need, like those who are homeless, and you don't do it, that's a bit different. You see, if I was in a position of political power, be it an actual elected person or somebody that has the ear like an advisor, I would advise coming up with something. And even if it doesn't pan out, at least I made the attempt. How many people make the attempt these days? And that is why I am doing this as sort of like a flashlight onto the complacency and apathy of our politics. Because you see, there's been a lot of things for years that have been major issues in our politics and in our daily lives that will get lip service during this time of election. But then when the election is done, no one does anything about it. One reason I theorize is because you want to keep the issue. You want to keep the issue. You want to keep the issue going. You want to oppose it, but you want to keep the issue going. Why? Because to fight it is to draw the passions and the attentions of those who would support being for or against these items that you're talking about. And you can fundraise off of it, you can get donations out of it, you can get support for it because you are opposing or you are for a particular issue. So why would you want to give up that easy cash cow of manipulation of the people? It is a theory, it's not a fact, because once again, there are things that contradict that. Actually being against or for the concept of abortion, Roe v. Wade, having that go down. One of the big cash cows is it then being against abortion. And being able to fight the good fight and say you have to fight the moral fight and be the righteous side that you're fighting to stop abortion, and then you get the money for it. And then for years and years and years and years, whenever there's been Democrats in the majority or Republicans in the majority and having a Democratic president or a Republican president, all this time since the late 70s, you have the opportunities. Now, the Republicans, as I said in previous videos, had the greatest long game and patience and concentration in order to get this goal done, but they also made money off of it. So what are they going to replace the cash cow, which is the abortion debate? I don't know. But that is one of the contradictions to my theory of people wanting to keep issues alive in order to make money off of it. I still think the majority idea that is the case. That people will say, I'm against that. I'm totally against that. Side with me. We're going to fight that. We're going to take that down. 4 years later, all right, we're still fighting a good fight. We're going to fight. We're going to get rid of that. 8 years later, we're better this. We're going to fight the good fight. We're going to go after that. Thank you for all the money for the past 8 years. It's something like that. You can flip the coin on both sides, Democrat or Republican, and you see things like that. My observation on the Democratic side is that we always hear about voter registration or being prevented from voting in various communities and being against voter ID laws that would eliminate people from the rolls. And the concept is that you want everyone being able to vote. Yeah. And see, again, these are one of those things that when you are in power, you're a Democrat, in a Democratic robust majority, nothing like what we have here now, and you have a Democratic president, if this was your major issue, then the next 2 years to the 9, you should be working on it. Do you? Because I don't know if you do. I think, once again, like the Republicans, issues like this is very helpful to talk about during election time, but it's not something you want to solve. And who gets caught in the middle of this? Actual people. Now, the stories when it comes to voting is pretty bad, where they got these older ladies and older gentlemen who've been voting all this time for years, decades, without having proper ID. But the community knows them. The community respects them. They understand the situation, that it wasn't required beforehand. So they go in and they vote, and everything is hunky-dory. But now, since a certain party wants to limit voting, because I think the basic calculus when it comes to Democrats and Republicans, that the Republicans got the calculus that the more people vote, they don't want to vote for them. So they want to limit the vote. So a new voter law comes out, new voter requirements for certain forms of ID comes out. Well, these older gents and these older ladies, they haven't been to a DMV in decades. And they didn't really need it beforehand, so now they need it, but they don't realize they need it up to the point of them walking up to the polls and says, sorry. We're now seeing, in Florida, in Arizona, the local Republican controlling party, at least in the governorship or the party of the state, feels the need to, protect the sanctity of voting by having goons outside, protect against the voter drop boxes. So we're going to get people in fatigues and equipment to stand there and be all ready to go because someone might vote. Oh no. Because evidently voter fraud is something you can see a mile away and is flashing neon. So they'll be there ready with their guns to stop it. But again, issues like this could have been handled in the 2 or so years between midterms and between national elections and between the next midterms, etc., etc., etc. But they don't. I mean, I can understand the concept of what have you done for me lately. in terms of people who are having to deal with higher gas prices, higher food prices, higher merchandise prices, inflation, which it pretty much is that. And them going either to their congressman or senator, they're Republican or Democrat, says, well, how are you going to help us? And theirs is, oh, well, we got a January 6th meeting to figure out what happened on January 6th, and the DOJ is going after Donald Trump. Okay, well, what are you going to do for us for this kitchen table here? We'll get back to you after the election. That's Democrats. Republicans. All right, so, well, they're doing that, and we think that's a waste of time. So, what are you going to do, guys and gals? You Republicans? What are you going to do for us at the kitchen table? Well, unlike them, we're going to investigate the Bidens, and Fauci, and Wray, and Garland. Yeah, but what is that going to help us at the kitchen table with prices? After the election. After we sort all this investigations out, then we'll get to you. Once again, if this is what they're promoting, is what they're wanting to do in the midterms, that this is what they want you to vote them in for, the other side's got to be doing something pretty horrible, so they got to demonize whatever they stand for, whatever they support, over-exaggerate what they're doing, and just in order for they get these people to go, all right, fine, I'll vote for you. I mean, your pitch is lousy, but them, oh my God. Yeah, so I can get that. And as a Democrat, I have to recognize that the Democratic message system is subpar at best. I mean, when you think about it progressively, idealistically, there's a lot of things that we want to support. We do want to support it. We want to see, basic human respect and so forth for the trans community, so they don't have to feel like they're still this alien nation, but they're a part of us as every other demographic that came before. We finally gelled it into together and just say, we're just Americans. But they're now the leading demonized class here, outside of the other. I mean, they're part of the others. But we have to temper our support given the argument against, and sometimes it's hard to have the patience to sit there and nuancely go, yeah, well, I have this to say about that, I have this to say about this, and take this as a case-by-case basis. Because when I've always maintained that when you generalize, it is lazy. And you see that in when dealing with situations like trans issues, where if there is one bad actor, then that's supposed to be representative of the whole thing. Hate to break it to people, but every group of people have assholes in it. There are no saints. There are more assholes than there are saints, because it takes a lot of work to become a saint. But one person does something shitty, and that should be representative of the whole group. Imagine that if you were a white heterosexual male and another white heterosexual male did something shitty. Not for the fact that they were white or heterosexual, or male for that matter, but because of the demographics of their makeup, that means all white heterosexual males is like this guy. No, we wouldn't stand for it. And there'd be people in the Congress and the Senate who'd be railing against being transphobic over the incidents of one or two people, on some social media bullshit like TikTok, and throwing a blanket over the entire group. But if that happened to a white heterosexual male, oh, that'd be cries, tears of blood, and outrage. And how dare you? I'm sure no demographic has ever felt that before. Oh, not the trans community, not the gay community, not women, not black folk, not Hispanics, not Asians. Where, there's one asshole, one piece of shit person, and all of a sudden, all of the people have to be like that. Especially in election time, where we have to demonize people to scare you to get into the voting booths to vote for us. Because we'll save you. We'll protect you by investigating people in the behests of our master. But after we get all that done, we'll take care of you. Yeah, this is kind of free-form ranting. But it is a state of being of our politics, where we are losing our idealism and thinking what politicians and the people that we vote in for are actually doing for us. Because when we really want to be honest with ourselves, what are they really doing for us? Do we even know? Can we name policies that they are backing, defending, fighting, which will benefit us, as opposed to all the sound bites that they do where they pay the lip service, but they don't really do anything beyond that? I mean, if Marjorie Taylor Greene was so hard at work, fighting the good fight for the people that she's supposed to represent, why did she have a podcast? Shouldn't she be working? How these people have no time to deal with actual citizens and will run away from interviews or conversations or hide behind closed doors, but they got plenty of time to go on Fox News or OAN or Newsmax and throw out their sound bites in nice, safe environments where they can't get any pushback or any real pushback beyond snowballs. What this does, it does generate the apathy. The complacency is, we'll get to it later. We'll get to the big major issues later, as long as you vote for us. Then after we get done with this nonsense, we'll get to your stuff later. The apathy is when you realize this. And then you go, what's the point? What's the point in voting for these people in? Other than power. Which in reality, and the sad part about it, which is also kind of sickly funny, is that it's not even your power. Yeah, I can feel good and so emboldened if when the Democrats get a robust Senate, House seats, and the Democratic president, oh yeah, it's high five time, but I don't have power. Even with my Democratic Party in control, I don't have anything. We're not voting. Well, I'll take that back. We are voting primarily to help improve our lives and the lives of our fellow Americans. We are voting for those who we're supposed to believe is going to fight for those causes that we support, that we think should happen in the United States, to try to live up to the ideals of what the United States was supposed to be, since we were taught as little kids, talking about indoctrination in school, kindergarten, first, second grade, how many of that was just involving singing patriotic songs? Really? But coming in for the idea of us wanting to be a better place than where it is now, and we vote for people in the idealistic reasons to try to lift up and make us worthy of what we claim to be, and then finding out is that, whatever you believe in, whatever you want them to fight for, they're not going to fight for it. They'll talk about it during election time, but after that they're going to be busy, and they'll be too busy to take your calls. So what is it worth? If there isn't anything that you get out of it, in terms of policy, that you make sure you got this majority in there that is going to fight for your interests, that you believe that they're actually going to fight for your interests. But if it turns out all you're doing is that you're voting to maintain the status quo of people in power, or voting to cast out those people in power to replace it with these people in power who at the very same time, in the very same breath, is not going to do a thing for you, but for themselves, for their own personal interest in maintaining the new power that they have. I mean, I'm sure there are people who are high-fiving the idea of the Republicans wanting to gut Social Security. I don't know how many of them are of the age that they're eligible for Social Security, that they like that idea, but there must be some, because they're promoting it as if it's like, yay, we're gonna go gut Social Security, we're doing it for you. Really? Or go after gay rights, go after teachers, go after migrants, go after, demonic trans folk who just want to go to the bathroom and be left alone. But you get them in power, and they get to do their little song and dance, have their happy dance of winning. After that, what are they going to do for you? What are the Democrats going to do for us on the Democratic side? See, there's the apathy. There is when you get ground down to, this is the same old for years and years and years. This is all, whatever you think is the seriousness of government, it's been reduced to it just being a game. Our team versus your team. Election night or beyond, depending on, how long it takes. One team wins, one team loses, yay, boo. But does life really change? Does your causes get won? Like I said, with Roe v. Wade, the Republicans had a long game from the 70s on up. They had to make sure all the pieces were in place in order to get that right configuration of the Supreme Court, and then start their little heartbeat bills that were more worse as they went along, so there could be challenges, so they can go to the Supreme Court, so the Supreme Court then cast down Roe v. Wade through their decision, and through loopholes and bullshit. And all the while, Republican congressmen, senators, who could have done anything on that side of the aisle when they had majorities, didn't do it. Why? Because they wanted the donation money to fight for it, but they did nothing towards it. Democratic side. What are the real objections of Democrats for Medicare for all? I don't know. I don't know of any rational reasons to be against Medicare for all. I mean, is it just simply because it comes out of the think tank of Bernie Sanders? So what? If the benefits that involves in Medicare for all is supposed to help everyone, why would you fight it? And I don't think too many people really do fight it, but it's just never going to see the light of day, because that will help things, and we don't want things to be helped. Once again, it's a situation of, we want a cause to fight for. We want a cause that you see us fighting for, and that you give us support and you give us donations so that we can fight the good fight for years and years and years and years. But we don't want to solve a problem. The benefits of problems is that people worry about, stress about problems, and will do everything to stop the problem. But they don't really want to stop the problem because they like that money, they like that support. I don't know. I don't know. But it does come a point where we as citizens do have to go, what's the point in any of this? If they're not helping maintain making your lives better, if they in their gated communities and their places of power that we vote them into are just content with their lot in life, they don't care about your lot in life. And if your situation is bad, they'll care about it. Oh yeah, at election time. They'll say, look at all these people. Look at all these poor people. They didn't have to be poor. That's because of you. You did that. You did that on the other side of the aisle. You did that somehow. Well, we're going to come, when we get into power, we're going to take care of all that. All that. It's going to be just fine. They're going to be better than where they were beforehand, because that's the thing. That's the are you better off 4 years ago? That's what they said from Bush to Obama. Democrats started saying that between Obama and Trump, and now they're saying that again from Trump to Biden. Well, here's the thing. The reality. At no time is anyone better, because no one actually works to make things better. And when they do, it's almost done by accident, really. If you're somebody who is looking for results, then you should be pissed off because there are no results. There's glad handing, kicking the ball down the field a little bit farther, wait for you to get back to that point, more glad handing, the next election cycle, kick it for a bit farther down the line. You know, if you are a Republican and you see your Republican candidates that all they want to talk about is their investigations of Hunter Biden, of Joe Biden, Fauci, Wray, Garland, of companies who dare stop supporting the Republican Party, and you think those are all valid reasons to vote for that candidate, that's on you. Vote for them. Fine. That is your choice. And don't pretend that that has anything to do with making your life better. Both sides of the aisle, Democratic voters or Republican voters, do have a habit of voting against their personal interests. Because we are all indoctrinated in the idea that it's less about helping the country and more about helping the party. See, when the opposing party we have to demonize as much as humanly possible, which I've been guilty of too. I mean, factually or not, you have to take these things by case basis, and no one has the patience to do that. But we'll spend more time outraging and getting pissed off and fighting for causes than actually deal with the day-to-day issues that it comes from gas prices, food prices, inflation, medications, actual policies that's supposed to help people. That's the backbone that says, yeah, that's important. Then they go, yeah, but we have to take care of them. They're the blame for your lot in life. We must destroy them. And then we'll get to you. It's fine. It's okay. And it's just, what's the point? One of, obviously before 9/11, during the Bush and Gore presidential election, Bill Maher made this great joke, and it was kind of apt at the time, that it didn't matter who you voted for, Gore or Bush, because they're essentially the same thing. You may as well call them Bore and Gush. Because, outside of, the labels in certain key topics, are Republicans and Democrats all that different? In the actual nuts and bolts and actually getting down to business kind of way? I don't know. I've always railed that centrists and moderates are the ones that actually does the work and that actually makes compromises down the aisle. And we have too few of them because too many people are firebrands on one side or the other who do not want to compromise, which is the actual American genius that actually had this country running since the Revolution and after the Civil War. But we don't want to do that anymore. We don't want to do that genius. We want to be the dumbasses who don't want to make the compromise. So it's all on that side, all on that side, and it just doesn't matter. Except for making sure your team has power. The team has power, you don't have power. So, yeah. Midterms, Republicans take over, hey, have that beer, high five, own those libs. Then don't notice that nothing of your life improves. Don't notice it. Just be high on owning the libs and having all these Republicans in power. And, hey, they're going to start investigations. That's great. They're going to shut down the January 6th committee, which is on the other side of the coin here. Hey, Trump doesn't have to testify. Yay! Then look around. Don't notice that nothing's changed. Prices are still high, regardless of them being in power. And then don't go, all of this was pointless. Now here's the thing. As cynical as I am, as a George Carlin quote goes, inside of every cynic is a disappointed idealist. You still want to be idealistic. You still want to believe that, your side or their side or, there's a compromise, that people do care about this country enough to try to help fight for it, to try to make sure every person, regardless of their demographic, has the same chance as everybody else in success and in happiness and bullshit like that. You want to think that these people are going to fight for your interests, that are going to do the right thing here, who's aren't going to work on these issues that they talk about. You want to think that's true. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm not going to be sitting here and saying, don't vote. Because I don't believe in that whatsoever. But, it does come a time, though, when you just have to ask why. Why should I support you? Why should I get involved in that way? Why should I give you the support or donate to your campaign if, 6 months down the line, you're not fighting for my interests? Imagine if we all rose up like that. Nothing violent, no protests. We all rose up together and just asked, why? Why should we support you? And spend the next 6 months to the next election cycle asking why. You haven't improved our lot in life. Have you put a bill out? Is there a bill out with your name on it that we can read that has proposals on a policy that will benefit us? Because even if you did that and that bill gets shot down, at least that tells us that you are trying to fight. But what? You can't do that because you're too busy on a podcast? You're too busy going on the news media and making sound bites? You're too busy standing behind other people in press sprays while your seniors are talking about bullshit and you're just standing there as if you are part of a solution that you're not, that you're just standing there and getting yourself involved in somebody else's soundbite? Is that Governmental business? Is that what we got you working on? Then, if that happens, then maybe the truth really does come out. Because maybe in frustration, these people who we vote for, who are supposed to represent us, Republicans and Democrats, then they clap back at us, and they give us a little bit of class education. That they're the betters that we vote for. We're the ones that are in control and in the power. That we don't really have power outside of the power of voting them in. So why don't we just calm down, go home, and accept what little scraps that we throw off our table? If someone gives us that honest moment, I wonder what happens then. Alright. The ranter rants because the urge to rant's always rising. And we'll see what this bullshit's going to lead us. One more thing. Causes are great. Causes are good for the emotion to rally people. But regardless of the lip service, the acid test to causes is the voting booth. People talk about women being so pissed off about Roe v. Wade they're going to come out in droves and vote. If that's the case, that'll be interesting. But that's not the case. If there are plenty of women out there, a majority of women, let's say, we'll give a educated guess and say it's a majority of women who opposed the casting down of Roe v. Wade. They came out as a solid voting bloc majority, voting in the midterms against those who publicly were against Roe v. Wade and is happy that Roe v. Wade is gone. And yet, Republicans still win. What does that say about the cause? What does it say about the assumption of the reaction? Did something overcome this outrage? Did other issues stifle the rage of this cause? And something more important came along? Ask yourself that. As a result of the midterms, and move on from there. I'll see you at the next outrage.